If you've studied public speaking, and if you desire to be a top public speaker, you probably already know that the most powerful part of any presentation comes from the stories that you put within that presentation, because it's stories that leave their mark. It's stories that are remembered. I'd like to give you just here 5 tips which are essential to storytelling. First of all, why would anyone listen to you? The answer is they expect a benefit. And that benefit can be as simple as one word. I mean, after all, people go and pay good money to go to the theatre just for this, or for a musical. And that is entertainment. Entertainment. So important in any presentation. Of course, every presentation is not designed to give entertainment, but it is entertainment that will keep the audience attracted, keep them listening, keep them expectant to what you're going to say next. And the entertainment will come in the form of a story. So that's tip number 1. Give them entertainment. The second one is this. It's so obvious that in a story you must be able to move them. You must be able to do something, not with just their minds, not with just their intellect, but with their hearts. You have to arouse their emotions. Now, the emotions can be ones of joy, or they can be ones of sadness, poignancy, encouraging empathy in the listeners, but there has to be emotion in it. There has to be deep emotion if you are to succeed and be your very best as a speaker in influencing, persuading, inspiring people. Obviously, in the story or stories, the stories must make a point. Now, you don't have to explain the point. The answer or the point made is in the story itself. If you have to stop to explain what you mean with the story has failed. The story itself carries the message. It can be a message within a message, but nevertheless, the story must make a point and stand alone in that respect. What sort of stories is the 4th tip? The most powerful stories that you can tell are the stories out of your own experience. The stories that have moved you emotionally, that are personal to you, that have made a big influence on your life, particularly if those stories have commonality with those of your listeners. And most things we share in our life are common to all human beings. So tell stories that are first hand to you. That's the first preference. Second preference for stories, if you don't have what you feel enough personal stories, tell stories that have been told to you second hand. Tell them. Tell the stories that have come to you from people you trust. And the third sort of stories that fascinate you, that have great interest to you. Tell those stories. But certainly, first-hand stories out of your own experience are the very best. And what's the fifth tip? The fifth tip is most people want to be carried back to the good old days of their life, particularly if they're older people. So the nostalgic factor, encouraging them to think back and feel how they used to feel, or attempt to feel how they used to feel. You go to the nostalgic factor. Tell them stories out of their own backgrounds. Stories of commonality. Stories of history that you've lived through and they've lived through. But even so, those stories must carry a point. Otherwise, what's the point in telling them? So to reiterate the 5 points: entertainment. Entertain your audience. That will keep them listening. Arouse their emotions. Make sure that every story that you tell has some significance and makes a point, no matter how slight or how profound. Preferably stories out of your own life, and always, if you can, take the audience back to their own lives, the nostalgic factor. I hope you got something out of this little video on the use of stories in presentations.